Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is a video about using bash. Now if you're not familiar with bash is one type of command line shell that's often found on different operating systems, particularly Unix based operating systems, which you would find on such as like Mac OS or any kind of flavor of Linux. Usually bash is going to be the default shell you find. Now, on a Windows computer, Windows has its own command line shell and PowerShell, but you can download something like Git Bash that allows you to use Bash on Windows, although it does have minor quirks since it's not a Unix kernel. So you know about my setup, I'm currently running Xubuntu, which is a flavor of Ubuntu, so this is a Linux machine. Okay, so things may be slightly different on a Mac or Windows machine. So first things first, how do I make the font bigger? So I hit Control Shift should be plus. So Control Shift plus, and then I can make this bigger, so that way you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, yay. So right now I'm in the root. So basically the way this reads is that this is the user. This is the name of the computer. Okay, so this is the user at this computer. And then the tilde represents the root. So this is the root for this user. Okay, and if I want to know where I'm at any time, I can use the command pwd, which stands for print working directory. Okay, so that's where I'm at. That's the root for this user. Okay, cool. So I can always know where I am. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder. Well, actually, let's just see what kind of folders I can find here. So if I want to see what kind of folders are in the particular folder that I'm at, I can type in ls. Okay, and this will list the folders that I have here. Okay, not just folders, but files. Everything that's in this folder I can see right here. But there's all flags you can put on different commands. They usually start with a dash, and they trigger certain things. So if I do ls-a, okay, now I can even see that stands for all, so I can see even the hidden files. Those are the ones with the dots in front of them. Okay. Now if I do ls-l, it shows me the not hidden files, but also adds their permissions and other details, like when they were created, their size, so just more detail. Okay, so I can see, and then let's see if I can remember how this works here. These user permissions. I think it's just generally like what are the permissions for the individual user, the group, and then I think it's like whether it's executable. So it's like read, write, execute. Read, write, execute. So basically, user can read, write, and execute, or this user, the group that the user is in can read, write, and execute, and I forget what the third one is. But you have these different permissions: read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. Okay, and if you ever wanted to change that for a file, you would use this chmod command. That's why it's still a command that I always have trouble with. It's just trying to remember like what the different permissions are. But you like if you wanted to give like all permissions to everything, you would just do like chmod 77 on the file that you are trying to change. Okay, but now if I do ls-la, it's going to show me all the detail for all the files. Okay, so even the hidden files. Okay. Cool. Now, you see the screen gets a little full, so I'm going to clear it out. I just type in the word clear. Okay, and now I'm back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder. So I'll type in make dir, and we'll make dir bash practice. Now, if I want to go into that folder, I can type in cd for change directory. I'll start typing in bash _p. Now, I don't want to type this whole thing. This gets really long after a while typing all these file names. So if I feel like I'm at the point where everything going forward is unique, I can just hit tab, and it'll just finish it for me. Okay, cd bash practice. And see, now I'm in the root, and inside of a folder called bash practice. Cool. And now if I type in ls-la in there shouldn't really be anything in there. Okay, and then see one dot represents the current folder, and 2 dots represents the parent folder. So if I were to type in cd dot dot, now I'm back in the root again. Or I can go back to there again. Okay, so I can move up and down pretty easily. Yay. Now if I wanted to make a file in here, I can type in touch. Okay, so I would type in like touch words dot text. Okie dokie. Now I type in touch words dot text, and there's a file now that should be called words.txt. See, and there it is. Now if I want to edit it, usually in your command line for most Unix-based machines, you're gonna have one of two editors. You'll either have nano, which is what I usually use. I think in most Linux machines have nano. You would type in nano words.txt, and you'll have this, and I can put stuff in here. So I'm like, hello world. Okay, and then I would hit Control X to get out of here. Then it's gonna ask me if I want to save, and I'm gonna say Y for yes. Then I'll hit Enter, and there we go. That's nano. Then there's also vim. Okay, so I can type in vim words.txt, and this brings me into vim. And see, there's hello world because I did that in nano. So I'm editing the file. Now here, at first it's read only. I don't use vim that much, so if I remember right, I think I have to hit like Control W to edit. No. There we go. I got to insert, and I just trying to remember how I got there. Let's see here. Colon. Then I think it's going to be like Control W to get back out of there. Oh, no, I want to delete all that. Okay, let's see if I can remember how to get out of here. So Control. Oh, there, you hit escape to go back out of to read-only mode. Let me just try that again. Control W. Okay, I guess just start typing in keys and it'll take you to insert mode, and you type escape to go back out of that mode. Okay, and then when you're here, so right now I'm not in editing mode. How can I tell? Because I don't see the word insert down here. Okay. But now if I want to quit, it should be like colon. Yep, see that colon brings up this little menu here. And you want to type in W, which stands for write, and then Q, which stands for quit. So it'll write any changes to the file and then quit. Okay, now we're out of Vim. I like nano, it's just more intuitive. But you got those, and I think you can even use V, but I don't know if I have V installed on this one. Let's find out. Which is pretty much the same thing as Vim. So Control WQ, there we go. So if you wanted to edit a file right there from the command line, that's how you would do it, either nano, Vim, or V. Though, depending on the permissions of the file, it may be a file with root permissions, so you need to be a root, you need to have root privileges to access it. So you would type in sudo, which is like super user do, okay? And then you would type in like nano, whatever. And that could be for any command. Anytime you have a command that needs more permissions, you type in sudo, it'll ask you for your password, and then you can do the thing. But be careful. Now, if I were to create a file using sudo, it's going to create it with root user privileges, which means I want to use sudo every time I edit that file. So, you know. And also, again, it gives your computer extra privileges, which means it can do damage. So only use sudo when you really need to. Cool. So now if I want to get rid of this file, actually before I get rid of the file, let's do a few things with the file. Now if I want to just print the contents of the file, I should be able to do is cat, and it's cat words.txt. Now we'll just basically print the contents of the file. See, perfect. Now if I do cat words.txt, what I can do is I can use the pipe, and the pipe just says take the result of this command and send it to whatever command I have afterwards. So let me think about this. Let's just put into another file. So words2.txt. I think I should just make another file and then put this text into this file. Okay, so I gotta first, like, let's see here. Let's try that again. I think I gotta make, see what happens if I make the file first during that. Okay, so now I should have two files, words2.txt. Now let's see if that text is inside words2. Nope. So now let's try. Try it now now that the file's created. So let's see here. I forgot one. Okay, so let's take a look here. Piping text from one file to another. I don't use pipes all that often, so I always forget how to do that thing. Cat file A, the file B. Okay, that's what I want to do. Okay. Well, what I could do this is I could take the text from cat where's that text and echo it. Okay, I'll have to play with pipe later. But essentially what they're saying, if I wanted to do what I was trying to do before, cat words.text, I'll use this character instead, which just means like send what's here to here. So cat words.text to words2.text. Now let's cat words2.text, and see now they both have hello world. Because see, I just printed the content of words2.text. Yay. Okay, so again, cat would just print out what's the context of the file. Echo allows just to print out whatever commands, so I can just print out hello cat echo hello world, and see it just prints hello world. That's all echo does. But you might have variables that you have saved, so it might do something like echo, and variables always start with a $, so path. It's kind of like PHP. So my path. So your path is essentially all the directories that bash will look in whenever you run a command. So when you run a command, it's going to look in all these folders to try to figure out where the script or program that tells it how to use that command is. So if you wanted to add to the path, you would just do something like path equals path. So that way it includes the original path, because you don't want to delete your current path, and then you do like colon and then whatever the next path, the next thing you want to add is. And you can create your own variables. You can do something like cheese equals Gouda. Okay, or I make sure that that's a string. Gouda. Okay. So now I've made that variable, and I can actually use that variable in things. So I can be like echo I love, then $ cheese. And see, now it says I love Gouda. Okay, so that's a thing you can use. It's more useful when you're scripting. But that variable will disappear. Okay, so when you do stuff like this, when you make a variable, it exists as long as this particular terminal session. So watch what happens. And another thing you can do is you can create an alias. So I can be like, an alias is just like a shortcut. So for example, typing ls-la can be really annoying. So what I can do is I can do alias all equals ls-la. Oh, I typed in alien. Alias. Okay, now if I type in all, see, it works just like ls-la. But now what happens if I close this terminal window and I open a new one? Okay, and then let's make that all big again. If I try to type in all now, see, it doesn't work anymore. If I type in echo I love cheese, see, that variable doesn't exist anymore. So that only exists during the terminal session. So keep that in mind. I'll show you how to make that persist if you really want that to always exist. Okay, now what I will do is I'm going to go back into that folder, cd bash practice. Okay, now we're going to remove those files. So now, well, first we'll make a folder. So make dir destroy, because we're going to destroy this folder. So now if I see here, now there's a folder called destroy. I want to cd into destroy. And I'm going to touch file 1, touch, actually you can touch multiple files. I can be like file 2, file 3, file 4. And see, now there's 4 files in there. Now I could remove one file by just doing like remove, rm stands for remove, so remove file 4. Okay, so that's removed. Great. Now I'm going to go back up into my practice folder. And I would like to remove the folder. So I try to remove the folder by typing remove destroy. And it can't because it's a directory. And especially since it has files. Okay. So then what you need to do is do rm-r recursive, which means not only does it remove the directory, but removes all the files inside of it, so that way it finishes the job. And then you can type in destroy. That's the name of the folder. And see, now the folder should be gone. And the folder is gone. But be careful, because if I did this -r command in my root folder, it would literally erase my whole computer. And it would be just, I would kill it. So be very, very careful when you use that -r command. Okay? Yeah, just be careful with that. That's probably the one command there where you can really do some damage if you're not careful where you run the command. Okay, so now that we know all that, let me just yeah, let me just go up a folder. And let's talk about making persistent stuff. So what happens is that in your root folder, so if we do ls-la, there should be a file called bashrc. Right there. So what this file does, this file is automatically run the minute bash opens. So when bash opens, it's going to read this file and then load up any variables, any aliases, anything that's inside that file. So if you want something to persist and be there every time, you want it in that file. So you can do something like this. So let's open it up in nano. So nano, and the file's called .bashrc. And you see it has all this stuff already in it. I wouldn't play around with it too much. So what I would do is make your own separate file that can be edited. Okay. So what you do is just at the very bottom, just do dot tilde, meaning this file is going to be in your root. And we'll just call it dot my bash stuff. Okay. And you put the dot means to execute it. Tilde means it's in the root folder. And then generally it's customary to make these hidden files, so that way they're just not hanging out there for people to play around with. My bash stuff. Control X. Yes. So we'll save that now. So now that's at the bottom of the file. So now I'm going to nano in this same folder dot my bash stuff. And now I can put something like alias all equals ls-la. I can put something like cheese equals Gouda. I can start putting all these things there so that way they're always available to me. Now I'm going to close this terminal and start anew. And now, when I reopen it, I should have, let's see here, echo. Oh, I'm going to make it big. Echo, I love cheese. And there, look, see Gouda. Because see, now it's available because that bash rc file runs. And in that bash rc file, I say, hey, also run this my bash stuff file. So all that gets loaded into memory. And then I can type in all and see it works. Now I can add functionality. And I keep it in that separate file so that way I don't accidentally break my original settings. So there's a lot more to bash. You can also create functions. Let's make that the last lesson. Okay. Okay, so let's say I want to make a folder called, let's make a command called folder. So this is a function. Looks like a lot like a function in other programming languages. Now what I want this to be is I want it to make a folder. So I'm going to use make dir, but I don't know what the name of that folder is going to be. So I'm going to do, I want to use a variable. And you don't get to name your variables here. It's always just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first variable I pass in is going to be 1. So basically I'm going to make a folder by the name of whatever the variable I pass in is. And then I want to cd into that folder. Okay. Control C. And that's my function. That's it. Okay. So even though there's these parentheses here, you'll never put anything inside of them. So Control X. Let me close the terminal. Reopen it. So you have that new, so that all rereads. Okay, so let me just first make this big. Let me cd into bash underscore practice. And then I'm going to type in folder cheese. And see, it created a folder called cheese and cd'd me in there. So I didn't have to do so many commands. I didn't have to type in 2 separate commands. It just did the thing for me. Very nice. Okay, so that's the beauty of like functions. You can, you know, make certain things a bit easier. Okay, so and then you can use any command that's on your computer. So as you start adding things, you can start using the commands that are in there to do the thing. Cool. So that's, I think, a good tutorial on the basics of using bash and doing some fun stuff to make your life easier in bash. But otherwise, have a great day and enjoy.